Hello, and thank you for joining today's webinar, Android for Work, your EMM onboarding kit. My name is Kayla Bittner, and I'll be your moderator. Today, we are joined by Tom Muir, Jean Drinks, and Josh Lambert. Tom Muir is Android sales specialist for Google, covering the Western U.S. and Japan, Asia, Australia, and New Zealand. He focuses on partner and sales enablement, as well as customer education and engagement. Jean Drinks is a sales engineer with the Android for Work team at Google. He's responsible for supporting the Western and Central U.S. and Asia Pacific regions and focuses on Android for Work features, architecture, and security. Joshua Lambert is a part of the product management team at Mass 360 and has been with the company for over 10 years. Josh focuses primarily on Mass 360's mobile device management features, ensuring Mass 360 is both comprehensive and easy to use. So just a few housekeeping items before we begin. This webinar is expected to last about 60 minutes and is in listen-only mode. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so if you have a question you'd like answered, please be sure to post it publicly in the Q&A panel at the bottom right corner of your screen. That way all of our panelists can see your question. We are recording today's session and we'll make the link to the recording and slides available by email. You are encouraged to tweet your questions and comments to us using hashtag #AndroidForWork. We'd love to connect with you and get the conversation going. You can find the event hashtag at the bottom of each slide as a reminder to get social and tweet along. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and pass it over to Joshua to kick it off with today's agenda. Josh?
Thanks, Kayla. So today, we'd like to go through a couple things. First off, we'd like to go through and talk about kind of a then and now a little retrospective on both Android and device management, and talk about, how kind of things looked back a couple years ago and how they've changed today for both, again, Android, Google, and the ecosystem, and also device management vendors like Mass 360. From there, we'll kind of move on and talk about some of the newer releases again, kind of continue that theme of kind of what's new, with talking about Android for Work and what's new and how you can help really enable Android users to bring and leverage their devices and their investment and help them be productive at work with those devices. From there, we'll transition and move on to kind of how to get started with Android for Work and talk about, what's required, and then give you a kind of a preview here of, number one, how to set it up and how the admin experience looks like, as well as also a demo of the device as well and how that looks with the, again, brand new Android for Work features as well. So let's do a quick overview of kind of the topics to cover today. With that, let's move on to our first poll question of the day. And the question is, are you utilizing Android devices in your corporation today? So A, the answer would be, of course, absolutely yes. Taking advantage of those devices my users have, bring them into work and be productive and happy. B is not quite yet, but we are looking and considering whether we can, bring these devices into our company. And C would be not just yet, maybe, some in the future, and perhaps today's webinar can help, address some of those concerns on the Android side. So we'll give you around 30 seconds or so to go through and get your responses plugged in, after which we'll go and share the results with everyone, as well as talk a little about, the results here as well. I'm particularly interested in actually seeing the responses here. Our earlier call today, actually, the vast majority were in the A bucket, which is fantastic, and curious to see if that continues to hold up here today. So actually, very similar numbers, although in this case, more folks are actually on the kind of A side here of already leveraging Android, which is great. So it'll be very interesting, hopefully, for all the new features that we're going to talk about here that you can leverage going forward for your Android devices. 18% or 20% are kind of in the B camp, considering, and so hopefully this can, help you, add to your knowledge base and look forward to these features coming out. And C, again, is around 15% here for not being considered correctly right now. But again, the great numbers here, and I think everyone will be interested in what we have to cover. So with that, let's kind of take a look back a couple of years ago and kind of just get an idea of, where the platform was, the ecosystem was, kind of how events were back in, let's say, about right around January of 2011 or so, right around 4 years in the past. And give some context around kind of how things looked back then, as it isn't that long ago, but it kind of feels really long ago. There was around 67.2 million Android devices shipped in the full year of 2010. And that, in today's numbers, doesn't quite seem like a lot, but if you put it in context and compare it to 2009, that's an over 800% year-over-year increase in the number of devices shipped, right? So there was less than 10 million in 2009, 67.2 million devices in 2010, and that's just a huge, huge growth. Also, just in context here, kind of how the broader market looked. BlackBerry enjoyed a 27% market share, and Android at that time was 22.7. So it's pretty interesting there, especially as you think about kind of where perhaps some other vendors in the space are currently today as compared to just a few short years ago. On the device management side of things, Froyo, the 2.2 operating system, was just released, and included in it were some brand new device management APIs, which allowed device management vendors like Manage 360 to support and build features for Androids and let them kind of be managed by enterprise corporations. Manage 360, in this case, we delivered our first version of our Android management platform in January of 2011. And compared to today, that would seem pretty basic. By the time, it was pretty helpful and was definitely a great step forward with those new device management APIs included. So from there, we kind of fast forward to today, right? Say January, February 2015, 4 years later. On the management side, Manage 360 now has 10 different apps, all published across Google Play, ranging from things like productivity, with making sure you can access your content and resources while on the go, also including things like kiosk and kiosk applications. And so if you're looking at deploying devices into hospitality or healthcare or other areas, I've seen it on planes, for example, you can kind of control that experience in a very manageable way, maybe only show one application, for example. Also includes things like remote support to help employees and their IT departments make sure they're up and running and can help troubleshoot in case any challenges arise. And then also we have some management extensions as well to help to support for some of the innovation that different OEMs have kind of had on the edges of the ecosystem here. Also, again, a little quick tidbit here, you can see down below, is the chart of the installations of our first application, Manage 360 for Android, over the last 4 years. Those little gray dots are also the version releases that we've had. We've had 56 of them since that first January of 2011, and that comes out to right around 1 a month. And so, the ecosystem and the market and the operating system have all been, changing pretty dramatically. And you can see here at Manage 360, we've kept up here with that pace of change, and certainly also the deployment rate as well, as you can see. Moving back to Android here, and to kind of compare again with that 67 million number from earlier. In the year of 2014, Android shipped, the overall ecosystem here of OEM manufacturers shipped 1 billion devices with Android on it in 2014. That is a huge number, right? I mean, not even compared to the 67 million previously, which is like 15 times higher, but just kind of managing that number, right? So as an example, there are right around 7 billion people presently on planet Earth. And that means that in the last year alone, we've shipped enough Android devices for 1 in 7 people to now have them in their hands. That's, I think, frankly astounding. And so kind of goes along with that Android is the clear leader in the worldwide market share. Of course, if you have 1 in 7 people on the whole Earth with Android devices, that would make sense. And also, they're, of course, recently enjoying the launch of Android Lollipop with a bunch of great new features. And also, of course, the recent release of Android for Work as well. We're really excited about it, and we've been working for some time, and so we can't wait to talk about it. And so we'd love to pass over to Tom to go into more detail here around Android for Work and what it means for you, your company, and your users.
Thanks very much, Josh. I appreciate it. And we're very happy to be working with IBM MOS 360 on this initiative to introduce Android for Work and really make Android successful for your enterprise. So as Josh alluded to, our market share today, as of 2014, is right around 84–85% market share. Globally on the consumer side, we are the obvious choice. People love our customization, they love our open platform. But when it comes to enterprises, we've seen about the inverse. Only 25% of enterprises today have approved Android for use, whether in a BYOD or in a corporate issue type of scenario. And some of the challenges that they've encountered, as I'm sure some of you may have found, are balancing security of the corporation with end user privacy. The openness of Android also became its Achilles heel, if you will. How do you segregate the data and separate personal from private, as well as prevent data leakage? What can be done about fragmentation? There's so many different devices out there, and they're all running different versions of Android. How do you support them all? It was a big challenge there. And then, of course, that leads to a lack of standardized management, for app distribution as well. We all know that the challenges that were involved with deploying third-party apps if you didn't have a solution in place, and we're here to help with that. Okay, so with Android for Work, the program was designed to support a variety of different deployments, whether it's a true BYOD scenario, or a corporate liable where you're issuing devices and either they're personal enabled or if they're strictly for business use. You'll have options available for you with Android for Work. We're also issuing a brand new Google Play for Work instance, which standardizes app delivery across all native supportive L devices moving forward. We've also standardized management across the different versions of Android. We've created a platform that will work, again, across all of the different device manufacturers. And we support, everything from Ice Cream Sandwich, which is Android 4.0, up through Lollipop today. We've also expanded upon the Android ecosystem. Previously we were working with app developers and device manufacturers. Well, today we're also working with, EMM partners such as MOS360, and as well as carriers to help improve the overall experience and get updates out faster and make it more secure to use Android. Speaking of our partners, MOS360 and Google have been working together for quite some time now on this initiative, and we've really, hammered out all the details, and we feel that it's a great time to launch and make this available. We're excited for you guys to get your first look at it, if this is your first look, and we can't wait for you to start, kicking the tires, so to speak. We've received commitments from a variety of device manufacturers. These are just, a few of many who've committed to, making their flagship devices compatible with Android for Work moving forward. We've also worked with some key app developers. When we announced Android for Work as a part of Lollipop back at I/O in June of last year, we informed these app developers of the capabilities of Android for Work, so that way they could put in some changes to their applications to make them more manageable by platforms like MOS360. And we've also worked with several key VPN providers. Just to start off with, these are a few that you see here on the screen, to provide you per profile, and in some cases, depending upon the VPN provider, per app VPN as well. So all of this brings the best of the open Android ecosystem, but still provides you with the framework to manage it and make it secure for your enterprise. Really, this is going to help you make your users more productive and give them a larger choice as far as which devices they'll be able to use. So with the separation of work and personal data, we achieve this in a couple of different ways, and we'll talk about the components here more in a slide or two. But with Android Lollipop, we do offer a native support, so it's built into the operating system. Whereas with pre-Lollipop devices and certain L devices or Lollipop devices that do not meet all the hardware requirements or software requirements to support Lollipop or to support the work profile, they'll use an Android app or Android for Work app, and again we'll talk about that in just a few moments. But no matter which way you deploy, you're going to get a native Android user experience, and we'll touch upon this more, in just a few slides as well. But as you can see, there's these neat little badges on those applications, and that's your quick identifier whether or not it's a work app or a personal app. Again, we're using Google Play for app distribution. This Google Play for Work instance allows IT to go in and curate a list of approved applications that can then be deployed and managed via the MOS 360 console. And then, of course, we're securing Android in the enterprise. It's not just a bring your own Samsung or bring your own HTC or bring your own Motorola device anymore. It is now bring your own Android. We're really opening this up to everyone, and you'll have a wider variety of devices that you can select from when issuing out devices for a variety of tasks. The availability is now. We launched this, or we made our announcement on the 25th, and IBM is ready today to answer your questions. And if you wanted to start testing, you'll hear from Josh in a little bit about how you can actually set that up and get this started. Now, I mentioned the components and how we support the different operating systems. One thing that you should know is that with the either option, they both support all of the major email providers that are out there. So whether it's Google Apps, or if you have a Microsoft solution, or if you're using Lotus, you'll be able to set up your PIM applications to work with Android for Work. Okay. Again, we're supporting everything that from Android 4.0 to 5.0 today and 5.1 as it comes and beyond. So the idea is with either solution, you're going to get a PIM suite for your email, contacts, calendar, tasks. We're also going to give you a productivity suite. These are Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides. Now, you don't have to have a Google Drive or a Google account to access these tools. You'll be able to use them in what we call offline or office-only mode. So you'll be able to open and view and edit documents on the fly, and you will have a secure storage container to store those documents. And then you'll be able to email them back out, or share them however you mean in that way. If you do have a Google Drive or a Google Apps account for business for work, you'll be able to put those tools into collaborative mode. So that way you can edit documents directly from your mobile devices on the fly in real time. You'll be getting a Chrome browser to use as your controlled browser. You'll be able to set proxy settings and so on and so forth. We're also providing a work camera. Okay. With Lollipop, you'll get the ability to use Google Play for Work. And again, using that for pushing out third-party apps. We will also be offering support for apps that you develop and design in-house. You'll be able to deploy those as well through Play. And it's a private Play Store environment, if you will. So any apps that you do not want to be posted onto the public Play Store, if they are your internal apps, they don't have to be posted there or hosted there any longer. Again, this is a solution to help lessen the need or the reliability or the necessity, excuse me, of app wrapping or the use of an SDK. It's just another toolkit available to you. Okay, the framework for securing and managing Android really revolves around these three tenets. From a security standpoint, obviously we're improving app security by allowing IT to control what's available and what's for use. From an OS standpoint, we've made some improvements. Obviously with Lollipop, we now offer the work profile partition, which is, essentially we're inflating a new user profile at the SE Linux layer, and we're encrypting that profile using AES 128 as a minimum requirement. That minimum requirement can be expanded upon by device manufacturers if they wish, but the bare minimum is AES 128 to be able to support Android for Work. We're also, from a hardware perspective, requiring certain RAM requirements and so on and so forth that improves the overall device security as well. Also, requiring block level file system encryption and some additional benefits. Again, this solution was designed for BYOD and corporate issued deployments in mind. So whichever one is more comfortable to you and your organization, you'll be able to manage in a productive way. Again, you'll be able to separate the data, whether it be a work profile with the native Lollipop support or through the containerization of the Android for Work application. Either way, it will be encrypted. The productivity tools, we talked about the slide before, and again, the secure file storage. Think of, on Lollipop, think of separate users on the same computer. They don't see each other's data, but the data is secure in each one of their profiles. This will be the same way. Excuse me. It's just IT will have the ability to manage the work data, while the personal data will remain personal. From an apps perspective, again, we talked about this a little bit. We're giving you the Google Play for Work environment. You're going to have a web portal that you'll go in and manage your applications. Again, picking and choosing whitelist of your applications, whether they be in-house proprietary apps or third-party apps. And some additional benefits, again, that we'll be going over here in just a few slides, are things like eliminating the need for licensing keys. From a management standpoint, we standardized EMM management and EMM framework, within Android Lollipop. You'll have more capabilities with MOS 360 across the control of the data and obviously the app ability within Lollipop. We've been working with app developers again since the launch or the announcement at I/O last year. It kind of talked about that a little bit as well. And again, the aim was to have a consistent user interface. We're kind of reining back some of the standards from the OEMs and hoping to make this a little bit more easy for users to switch, if necessary, from one device to another, and they'll still have the same look and feel with the work profiles. From the update process, we've taken a step further from what we started with KitKat. In decoupling security updates from the actual overall operating system update and making those available as a part of Google Play updates. So that will hopefully allow for more updates faster when security patches get released and so on and so forth. Don't necessarily have to wait on the carriers to get those updates. So that takes us to our next poll question. Josh, you want to go ahead and put the question?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Tom. So the question here is, which aspect that Tom was going through earlier of Android for Work are you most excited about? So is it A, some of the security enhancements that Tom was mentioning around having encryption available and always on for these devices? Or is it perhaps talking about some of the app distribution support, where you can go through and curate the work Play Store and control what applications users have access to, at least on that work side? Or is it C, having a more standardized management platform available across the entire breadth of the Android ecosystem, and having a more consistent and predictable management tool for these devices? We'll have to go ahead and get those keyed in here. Actually, I was frankly very surprised at our earlier webinar today, where my personal favorite wasn't actually far and away the least popular. We'll see what today is. Actually, today is, again, very similar.
Again, yeah.
So it looks like security enhancements are #1, with closely followed behind that standardized management, with poor app distribution #3. Maybe that has to do with A and C here being sort of basic requirements, and D being more productivity. Tom, I'm not sure, but what do you think?
Well, it could be that we just haven't had a chance to talk about Google Play for Work yet, so they don't know that they should be excited for it.
That's true as well.
All right, so let's dive back in here. Let's talk about the user experience a little bit. All of your applications are going to be in the same unified launcher, so this makes it very easy for users to identify where their work apps are. We've moved them all to the end of the application list. As you'll see here in the demo that Josh is going to pull up in a few moments, plus all of those applications that I mentioned previously are badged, so very easily identifiable. Users can make shortcuts for them, put them in folders, widgets. If the application supports widgets, they'll be able to use those work widgets. Treat them just like any other app. One other thing is, if you guys have played with Lollipop at all, you've seen the new recent applications or recent tabs that have been opened, and it's in this neat little Rolodex form. Well, those cards now will be badged as well if they are a work application. So that does carry over in the material design aspect. The nice thing with Lollipop and the native support in Lollipop, you'll be able to have one single application for the use of both profiles. So if you're using Evernote, for example, on both the personal and in the work profile, you'll be able to have just one APK sitting there. We do this because the separate user profiles will have access to the application, but their individual data sets will remain within their different environments. So Google Play for Work, this is really a monumental shift in how app management is done in Android. We're providing you with this web console that looks very similar to Google Play. So if you're familiar with that environment, this will be pretty quick to pick up. And you get the entire catalog that's available in Play today at your disposal. You go through and you click on, a couple of clicks, you accept the application. Once you have your whitelist together, you would go over to your MOS 360 console and deploy those applications via policies and profiles. And again, Josh will kind of go over that in the demonstration coming up in a few minutes. Some of the great benefits here, again, the elimination of license keys. That was one of the things that IT really said to us, that having to chase down either former employees or employees who have changed roles and they no longer need access to specific apps was really a pain point for them. And this was one way that we could really make it stand out from any other of the solutions that are out there today. So our bulk purchasing program really eliminates the need for those licensing keys. It also gives you the ability to accept any intents and permissions for those work applications. So you can either silently install them or provide a catalog within the Play for Work environment on the device where they can pick and choose the applications. So if you do the silent install, obviously you can also do silent removal for the applications. Really have a lot of control over which apps go into that work environment in the device. That's all the information that I have available for us today on Lollipop and Android for Work. Josh, turn things back over to you and wrap it up with this last poll question here around Android for Work.
Thanks, Tom. So it was a great primer there on Android for Work. I know we're excited, and hopefully everyone on the call is as well. So kind of on that same vein, what we'd like to do is kind of re-poll folks and find out if after learning about Android for Work in more detail and some of the capabilities and goals and functionality it offers, has your opinion on Android Enterprise changed? Were you already in that initial group that was already leveraging Android in Enterprise? And if so, that's great. Of course, fantastic. B, yes, so we had some concerns, but after listening to Tom go through, really excited about this and want to dive in more detail and start getting, a little more ready to go here with Android. Or C, still on the fence, kind of still need to see some other features or other needs addressed. So go ahead and get those keyed in, and we'll go ahead and review these. I know we already had a pretty sort of Android savvy audience already, which is great. A will probably certainly be number one here, but I'm interested to see how many more folks are now sort of actively considering leveraging their users' investments in their devices for work. So it looks like we got 17% of folks here, Tom, sort of ready to move forward here. And of course, A, we already had around 15% already doing it, which is great. And C, hopefully this is very helpful for you. And I think the demo will also go to show in a real way, how this can really help address perhaps some of the concerns we have with Android and allow you to move forward here. So with that, let's kind of move forward into how you can get started with Android for Work, and also give you a demo of how that looks. Really to get started, it's just a couple things you need. The first one is you'll need a Google for Work account, and this is for your company and for your users. And that way, as Tom was mentioning with the Google for Work Play Store, you can then go in and have a way to control access to the Play Store, assign licenses and purchases over, and kind of manage that whole experience and make sure users only have access to the applications you want them to. And so that's how that kind of gets done here with the Google for Work account. And so you need to have that set up and ready to go. The next thing you'll need for Android, of course, the Android L experience, that native experience, that in Lollipop that we're talking about, is to have a device running Lollipop. Get a hold of one of those that supports Android for Work. The ecosystem is growing quite rapidly here, and if you want to contact us, Master 360, we of course can direct you to one that's available today off the shelf. But of course, the Nexus devices are a great place to start as well. From there, of course, you will need an EMM vendor with support for Android for Work, and it is powered by kind of the EMM. You'll see kind of why here going forward. But if you have Master 360, for example, of course, as mentioned, you're already set there and you're ready to go. So as long as you have those three things, right, Google for Work account, that's pretty quick and easy to set up. And once you have that, a device, and then an EMM vendor, and that's it. So from there, let's go ahead and actually show you how you'd go from having these three things to actually deploying Android for Work on devices and managing the experience. So we'll go ahead and share my desktop here, and hopefully it's coming for you folks. There we go. So I've got my MAS 360 console here. Go ahead and get logged in. There we go. And once I log in, I'm going to want to go to our Setup tab because I want to actually set up the Android for Work service. So pretty straightforward. So we'll pop in there, and this is in the Device Management section. So we'll go ahead and take a look at this, and you can see here, right here, Android for Work is enabled in my account, and I can simply enter in this token thing, right? So kind of, what is that? Well, this token is what allows us to talk to, the Google for Work servers from MAS 360, and that way we can kind of, work with the applications, push them out, and help have an integration between the two services. So let's go ahead and get ourselves this token. So I'm going to go ahead and get logged into our admin console here. This is my Google for Work admin console. And once I log in, I'll see a couple options here, ranging from user management and company profile and things like that, and some reporting options. But we are interested in the security features here, and in particular, we are interested in the Android for Work settings. And so, very easy, very straightforward. I simply click on this button, generate a token, copy and paste it over, and once I do that and enter in my domain name, the two services will be linked and talking to each other. And so it's really that easy to go ahead and get Android for Work set up within your MAS 360 or EMM provider. So there we go. They're linked up, they're talking to each other, and now we can go ahead and start working with Android for Work. So that's great. So now we have the setup done. Let's move into what we want to actually do on these devices. So we'll go into our policy section. We'll then pick up one of our policies here. We'll just grab our this guide in this case, and what we've done is that we have added on the Android for Work policy options right beneath the sort of options you've been using today, right? So the old device management options are, of course, still available if you have some older devices, but right beneath it, you also have the new Android for Work options here. So we'll go ahead and click those, and you can see which options are relevant for the Work app versus Work native. And we'll start here with passcode, right? Kind of where everyone starts with, your passcode quality, your length, complexity, expiration, all that kind of good stuff. But then also available is things around restrictions, right? So how do you want to have your users' sort of work profile behave? Do you want them to be able to cut and paste from the personal side to the work side and vice versa? Or do you only want them to have cut and paste within the work profile? How do you want to handle notifications, right? So say, for example, you've got an email application which is generating some alerts. Should those be available on the lock screen or not? And so you can configure those here. Also available, for example, is things like controlling what widgets users can have on their home screen. So some great options there for controlling the security around the work profile and how you want that to work on that particular user's kind of device. From there, you can do neat things around things like compliance, where you can make available certain personal applications in the work profile, or you can also require applications and enforce that they cannot be deleted. Right, so maybe your mail application and maybe your VPN application will be required, and that way users can't perhaps hurt themselves unintentionally, and create a phone call to a help desk perhaps. So those can be configured there, which is great. Also, of course, probably second most popular one after passcode is the active sync configuration, and so you can go ahead, configure this, set it up, and push it out to your users. Followed, of course, by things like VPN, and we have great support there. And you can see here, F5, for example. Pretty straightforward. The great thing here, as Tom was mentioning, is that when you configure your VPN on the work side, it only applies to the work side. So there's no concern about personal applications traversing the work VPN and potentially getting fouled up with Facebook traffic or unintentional use. Also, even nicer is that going forward, some EVPN vendors are actually also supporting per app VPN even within that work profile for even more security. Finally, we also have some great control over things like the Chrome browser. So you can go in, configure blacklists, whitelists, bookmarks, as well as a whole bunch of other settings here like proxy down below as well. So some great control there for the whole experience here, from mail to browser to restrictions and what applications they can use and security. So with that, let's go ahead and enroll a device, right? So we got our policy set up the way we want to, and now let's go ahead and get a device enrolled here. We go ahead and click the box here to use Android for work. I'm going to type in my username. You also, of course, can hook up MAS 360 to talk to your domain or directory as well, and that way you don't have to type this in yourself. You can have your users simply self-enroll with their credentials, and that's a nice time saver for you admins out there. You should go ahead and then just pick up the policies that we just configured. So go ahead and grab our Android for work policy. Take a final look here, make sure it all looks good, and it does to me. So go ahead and hit send request. And now I just need to go ahead and pop open my device here. So here's my Nexus 5. And enter in my device. And now we are in here. So we go ahead, open up Chrome, and browse that URL that we've got loaded there. And this is where everyone can go ahead and just enroll their devices to. And if you have the directory service enabled, they would only have to simply go to that n.dm/dlp demo URL. They wouldn't have to do all the rest of this. This is sort of the little more secure one-time passcode option here. So that's great. It says that I was an Android device, and it directs me off to Google Play. And here is our MAS 360 for Android. That application, they got 56 version updates across the last 4 years. So that's good to see. I'll hit accept and install it. It'll go ahead and get installed. And for those of you familiar with the kind of enrollment experience, this all looks very similar, but you will see a couple changes going forward once you get going here with Android for work. You'll see those in just a second here once it finishes installing. Just take a second for my Nexus 5 to get this going. It'll be all set and ready to go. There we go. So we'll open up our application here. And we will enter in our corporate ID so we know what company I am with. We'll enter in my email address here. And once we do that, it will prompt us for the passcode. That would help if I can get my username, my email address correct there. There we go. That's looking good, I think. So now I'll enter in our passcode. Hit continue, and there we go. So I'll agree to the terms and conditions and hit accept. And now here's where you'll see a little bit of a difference, right? So previously on the kind of the existing or the kind of earlier devices, you would see us prompting for something like a device admin so we can manage the entire device. That doesn't actually happen anymore, right? So we actually don't take control over the entire device here. Rather, we actually will prompt you for the work profile and get things going. So you can hit OK. And be prompted here to set up that work profile with this nice dialog box that will inform your users what to go ahead and do. So I'll click on Setup, Agree, and now my work profile is being configured. Once done there, I'll be prompted to enter in my Google account. So I can go ahead and click OK. And now I'm simply, again, entering in that Google ID for my user, and that way my company admin with their kind of Google Master Google Work account can curate that store for me and make sure I only have access to what I'm supposed to. So we'll go ahead here and enter in my Google account. Click on Next. And here we go. So I'm going to enter in my password. And there we go. So I'm all done. Got my Google account loaded there. I hit Accept. And the enrollment experience is done, right? So work profile is created. My corporate Google account is loaded in. And as you can see here in the setup screen for accounts, I have my personal accounts, Dropbox and Google, and my work accounts with the Google with the briefcase, as Tom was mentioning. And if I back out and actually open up the launcher here, you can see I've started to get some icons down below with the briefcase, right? So my downloads, contacts, Google settings, as well as also my Play Store. So if you actually pop open the Play Store here, you can see what applications, in this case, have been made available to me already. And I've got 3 here. I've got some Google Drive, Google Device Productivity, Hangouts, all that kind of good stuff. And I can simply pop in these and install them and move forward here. So for example, go in, click on Install, and I'll now have my mail, calendar, and contacts being pushed down and installed, and also configured, right? So the email configuration, which you saw earlier here, will now also take effect as this application finishes installing. I can simply open it up and start getting my company email. So very nice there as this application just finishes up and installs. So there we go. So it's a nice quick experience there for managing your Android devices, as well as a demo there of the briefcases, right? So you can see the personal side of the Play Store and the work side of the Play Store, how they're different and curated. And that applies to any application also like Chrome. So with that, on the device side, let's go ahead and take a look at how you actually push applications out to your users. So let's go ahead and go to the app catalog here. And you'll see in this case that we have Hangouts, Google Drive, and Device Productivity already loaded, already ready to go. And those were the 3 that were already set up. Now, before we add a new application, we want to go in and actually, again, accept those permissions, right? Because, as Tom was mentioning, you have to go in and approve applications for use in your company. So here is the Google Play for Work store. And let's say you actually want to go ahead and make Chrome approved for your company, right? So we can go through, search for Chrome. Here is Chrome right there. Looks great. And they can simply go in and hit on the Approve button. Once we do that, we're prompted with a nice option here of perusing what requirements and what permissions this application wants to use, right? So those all look good to me. So I'll go ahead and approve this application for my company, and now it's available. We get that nice green check mark. There we go. And we can now pop back into Master 360 and add the application to our service here. So we'll go ahead and search for Chrome. There we go. We'll go ahead and click on Add. Enter in our passcode. And now we kind of got it into our system here. If you wanted to, you could push it out to your users just like this. There's a great other tool you can do it, which is called App Bundles, which can make pushing out and managing larger collections or applications much easier. So here's what I made earlier. Got my Google Work applications. You can see here it's got those 3 apps already included, Google Drive, Productivity, and Hangouts. Those are those 3 I had earlier on my device. I can also go in, of course, and add new application. You can say here, again, just adding Chrome. Again, it's already been allowed. Click on Add, enter in my credentials again, and now we've gone ahead and added this into the bundle. And you can see here this bundle has already been pushed to my devices. And so in a couple seconds here, my device will pop up, and now Chrome will show up in the Play for Work store. And it's really that easy to go in and add applications and then push them out to your users. You can also see here that instant install was opted to be turned off in this case. You can go ahead and push out this bundle to your users and opt in for instant install. And if you do that, we'll actually not only have it show in the Play Store, but we'll also silently push it to the end user as well. And that works out great for applications which you really want folks to have, maybe mail, maybe VPN, and that way they don't have to do anything further. They simply enroll, application comes down silently, and they can get on with their business. Very easy and very nice. So with that, that kind of wraps up the quick demo there. We've talked about, setting up, getting things hooked up from MAS 360 to Google for Work. And then we've also talked about, going through enrolling devices, configuring policies, as well as how to push applications down to your users, and of course that great, work and personal experience on the device side. So kind of wrap things up. Hopefully it was a very, interesting experience for you, looking at how that works and how easy it is to get started here. So with that, we'll go ahead and start talking about a little bit about MAS 360 in general, and then we'll get on to the Q&A here. So in general, why customers like MAS 360 really quickly here. Number one, we're flexible. So we have great delivery, multiple options for delivery, ranging from our great SaaS solution, which is award-winning, to our on-prem solution, if you want something kind of in-house. Also, we have a pretty wide breadth of features I mentioned before, ranging from productivity to remote support to kiosk applications, the whole gamut there. Also have great integration options ranging from directory services to certificates to mail servers, all available and all integrated in a very easy-to-use solution that's built for the cloud. And then, of course, it's also very simple, and you saw some great proof of that with how easy and quick it was to get set up, get deployed, and configure these devices. So with that, if you aren't already using MAS 360 and you like what you saw, you, of course, are welcome to go ahead and get started on our SaaS solution. You simply go to mas360.com, and you can go ahead and get your started trial. It's very easy, very quick, and you can then, of course, kick the tires here and check out all the fun new features. So with that, we do an upcoming webinar next week and next Thursday. It's going to be about enabling a mobile sales force. And so this will be more about that particular use case for your salespeople, how you can help them be more productive, and especially as they travel pretty heavily around the road, right? Users are highly mobile anyways, and how can you make sure they can do their job even better while on the go? And so with that, we'll go ahead and start taking some questions. Last time we had a whole bunch of great questions here, and so we actually ran out of time. And so hopefully we can get to more of these here as I have a little more time here today. One question here, we can go ahead and get started here, is how would you prevent users from using personal apps from checking corporate email? So first off, of course, you can go in and you can control what apps are available for the work profile, and that way you can make sure that in the work side they're only using the application you want them to. And then if you want to make sure someone can't simply install an application on the personal side, we do have that email integration I was talking about before, where you can use either our cloud extender or another service to go ahead and ensure that unknown devices that aren't managed or are using mail applications where you don't want them to use are being blocked. And you can do that in a couple of ways, but absolutely, you can imagine that is a very common question, and we've been doing that for a number of years.
I've got one here. Does Android for Work extend to text messaging? Currently, it does not extend to text messaging. We view SMS outside of the work profile, at least in a BYOD type of scenario. Now, if it's a corporate-owned deployment, obviously you would be enrolling the entire device, and it wouldn't just be a work profile. In that type of scenario, the text messages would be part of the management. I would have to defer to Josh as to whether or not, what type of capabilities they would have.
Yep. Sorry, Tom, I was browsing some questions there. Can you repeat the question there?
Yeah, in a corporate-owned type of scenario or corporate liable scenario, how does MAS 360 monitor text messages or SMS? What type of controls or policies can be put in place?
Yep, sure. Today we don't do a whole bunch on monitoring or logging SMS messages, and we have some solutions or some options for how to control that if you want to. But in general, it's not something that we want to get into the business of doing ourselves, which is tracking and logging these types of messages. But certainly recognize in the financial space that you may have a requirement for this, and we can certainly help you, as we have helped a number of other folks out there in kind of working with regulations and what you need to do on these devices.
Great. Here's a great one. Is Android for Work already available for current MAS 360 customers? If so, how do we go about beginning to test it? Josh, I just teed one up for you there, buddy.
Yeah, so this is a very easy one. Since we're kind of early days here and it just launched, what you can do is go ahead and contact your support or message support, and we'll go ahead and get it turned on for you. Just simply click a button in the back end, and we can also at that point in time also provide you with a list of supported devices, as well as answering the questions you have and the policies you just saw and things like that. But absolutely, just give us a ring. We'll hit the button in the back end, flip it on for you, and you'll be on your way.
Here's another great question. Our company has a large number of employees. How do we create corporate Google accounts for all of them? So in that scenario, there are a couple of tools that can be used within the Android for Work framework. We do support Active Directory sync, so you'll be able to link up your Active Directory users with the EMM provider to help create that large list of employees within the Google for Work environment.
Another question here on passcodes. Does the passcode change? Does the passcode requirement change when encryption is turned on? Right now it is 6 alphanumeric, and will that change? I think the question here is referring to the passcode requirement on Samsung devices of at least 6 alphanumeric. That's a restriction that Samsung implemented for their encryption service. As Tom was mentioning, that some folks go above and beyond those encryption services. So Samsung does, and that was one area where they opted to increase the encryption kind of security by mandating a stronger passcode. That's kind of a particular OEM decision there, and the broader devices don't have that particular requirement. Another question here, do custom-built apps need to be approved into the general Google Play Store first? For the Android for Work, Lollipop and beyond, that whole Play Store aspect, the Play Store is the method for delivering applications into that work profile. I think as Tom mentioned earlier in one of these questions, we at Master360 can, of course, deliver them and push them and also provide user experience as well if you want to. But ultimately, kind of the Play Store is doing that kind of legwork on the back end to provide that seamless experience, if you will, of that silent install. And so you will need to have your custom-built applications loaded in some way into Play. They don't have to be publicly available. You can opt for what's called a Google Play private channel service. Or you can also have a third option, which is a bit like loading up metadata and having the application reside elsewhere. You have options there, but ultimately you will need at least some information stored in Play, and that way the Play service knows how and what to download and how to put it on there. So it's a good question here around biometrics. I'm not sure, Tom or Jean, if you want to answer that one. Just general support for those.
General support for biometrics as far as a passcode or an unlocking method for Android for Work.
Yeah.
It is not currently supported, but we are looking into that for future versions. We have done some pretty cool things with Lollipop around Smart Unlock, where if you're using wearables, you can use that as a way to bypass inputting your password. You can also do that with location. So if you want to set up your corporate office or if your corporation wants to set up a way to bypass that unlock, that you can do that with that particular location. As well as the trusted devices are not just Android wearables, but they can be any Bluetooth device. You can also use NFC tags. There's a lot of cool different options that you have there to help ease the burden of entering that password. Awesome.
That sounds pretty innovative and pretty cool. There have been a number of questions here just in general around the third-party ecosystem on Play Store and how that kind of works. And Jean's done a great job of answering those questions here kind of as we went along in our webinar. So thank you, Jean. But just to reiterate kind of on the phone here, With the Live Pop and Beyond devices, with that great tie-in to the Google Play Store, any application on Play, when someone asks in particular about same time, can be delivered into that kind of work profile. And so it really kind of expands the whole ecosystem of all applications on Play, as long as they're, of course, approved by the enterprise first to be available in that work profile.
There's a question here, and Gene, maybe you can help me out. How would you prevent users from using personal apps for checking corporate email? This has less to do necessarily with the Android for Work functionality. It's more of a capability of your allow block quarantine from your email server. Gene, can you expand on that?
Tom. Yeah, Tom. Josh actually already covered that question. They have some cloud-based services, part of MAS 360, that can determine what apps are and are not allowed to connect to your mail server through their gateway. So that's part of their solution. Yeah.
No problem. We're all busy reading questions here. Yeah, absolutely, we can go ahead and have multiple options there for having a filtering kind of in front of your mail server to ensure the device is managed, and also to ensure it's a mail client that you want to actually support.
There was a question here around HIPAA compliance. I'll grab that one. So HIPAA compliance is kind of a broad set of rules around making sure that personally identifiable health information for patients does not get out to anyone who is not supposed to see it. And that involves encryption. It involves logging of who gets access to what data, and it involves being able to take corrective actions. Android for Work does provide the encryption and the manageability components that are an important part of that. Although no devices or solutions get certified as HIPAA compliant, these can definitely be a part of a fully HIPAA compliant solution. So not a short answer, but hopefully that helped.
Okay, great.
I think we've gotten to the list of questions.
I think so. Thanks everyone for joining. We're right at the top of the hour here as well. Let's of course send a special thank you to Gene and Tom for doing a great job in presenting and helping us answer questions here and educating folks on kind of the new release here of Android for Work and Lollipop. And again, we really appreciate your participation, and thank you.
All right.
So with that, maybe pass it back to you, Kayla, to wrap things up.
Yeah, sounds good. Yes, a huge thank you to Tom and Joshua for their time today and showing us around Android for Work, and a big thank you to Gene for answering questions throughout the presentation. That was a big help. And thank you to everyone for joining today. Just wanted to remind you that you will be receiving an email that will provide you access to the recording and slides to today's event. That way you can review anything you missed or share it with others. You can learn more about Android for Work on our website, as well as sign up for our free trial. So on behalf of all of our presenters and the rest of us here at IBM, we hope you enjoyed today's presentation and have a productive and secure rest of your day. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.